Nobody at the Blackwood shooting range expected much from the girl who showed up every morning at dawn. Aaron Walker, 25 years old, arrived alone in her beat-up Ford pickup, carrying a worn rifle case and nothing else. While other shooters rolled up in sponsored trucks with equipment trailers, she walked to the firing line with the same quiet determination her father had taught her years ago. "You sure that antique still fires?" Jake Morrison, the range's most vocal regular, called out one morning. He was adjusting his $1,000 scope, surrounded by cases of premium ammunition. "My rifle's worth more than your truck." Aaron didn't respond. She never did. Instead, she methodically unpacked her father's old bolt-action rifle, the same one he'd carried in Afghanistan, and began her morning routine. No electronic aids, no computer calculations, just her father's handwritten journal and the muscle memory he'd built into her bones before his sudden death 9 years ago. The other shooters had grown accustomed to her presence, but they'd never grown comfortable with her stillness. While they chatted about equipment upgrades and competition gossip, Aaron studied wind patterns and adjusted her breathing. She shot differently than everyone else. Each bullet deliberate, meaningful, perfect. "She's creepy quiet," whispered Rebecca Phillips, a sponsored shooter who'd placed third in state championships. "Never talks, never misses. It's unnatural." What they didn't know was that Aaron's silence wasn't shyness. It was strategy. Every morning she practiced wasn't just about improving her accuracy. It was about honoring her father's memory and preparing for something bigger. She'd been shooting competitively for 6 years, consistently placing in the top 3 at state competitions, but always flying under the radar. That morning, as steam rose from her coffee cup in the cold Wyoming air, Aaron opened her father's journal to a page she'd memorized. "Precision is patience made visible. The quiet gift isn't about being heard. It's about being remembered." She was about to put that philosophy to the ultimate test. 3 days later, the letter arrived. Aaron's hands trembled slightly as she read the official letterhead: "National Precision Trials, Invitation-Only Competition." Her simple one-page application had somehow caught their attention. The prestigious event, held annually at the Riverside military training facility, brought together the country's elite marksman Olympic champions, decorated military snipers, and professional shooters with million-dollar endorsement deals. They probably needed to fill a diversity quota, Jake laughed when word spread around the range. A girl with a World War II rifle? That's good publicity for them. Aaron folded the acceptance letter carefully and tucked it into her father's journal. She had 8 weeks to prepare for the most important shooting competition of her life, surrounded by people who would expect her to fail. But her father had taught her something the sponsored shooters with their fancy equipment had never learned. Sometimes the most dangerous opponent is the one everyone underestimates. That evening, as Aaron cleaned her rifle in the small apartment she could barely afford, she whispered the words her father used to say before every difficult shot. "Trust your training. Trust your preparation. When the moment comes, let instinct guide you." The National Precision Trials were about to discover what Wyoming wind and a father's love could create. The Riverside Military Training Facility sprawled across 2,000 acres of California desert, its state-of-the-art ranges and accommodations a world away from Aaron's modest practice setup back home. As she drove through the security checkpoint in her dusty pickup truck, she watched Mercedes and BMW vehicles with equipment trailers pass by, carrying teams of shooters, coaches, and sponsors. Aaron parked in the furthest corner of the lot and shouldered her simple gear bag. Her father's rifle case bore the scars of years of use, held together with electrical tape and hope. As she walked toward the registration building, she caught fragments of conversation from other competitors. "Did you see Marcus Thompson's new setup? Custom built, $50,000 easy." I heard the military sent their best sniper from the Marine Corps. 3 confirmed kills in Afghanistan. This year's prize money is insane. Winner takes home $200,000 plus endorsement deals. At the registration desk, Aaron presented her paperwork to Diana Foster, the competition coordinator. Diana's eyes widened slightly when she saw Aaron's sparse application file. Ms. Walker, welcome to the trials. I have to ask, do you have a support team? Coach? Sponsor representatives? No, ma'am. Just me. Diana glanced around the busy registration area, where other competitors were surrounded by entourages. Well, that single quotes refreshing. Your assigned quarters are in Building C, Room 117. Training starts tomorrow at 0600 hours. Aaron's room was Spartan but clean, a single bed, desk, and lockers. Through her window, she could see the main competition range, where targets waited at distances that would challenge even expert marksmen. She unpacked methodically, hanging her father's journal on the bedpost where she could read it before sleep. That evening at the welcome banquet, Aaron sat alone at a corner table, observing the social dynamics playing out around her. The elite shooters moved in clusters, sharing war stories and comparing equipment specifications. Sponsors mingled with athletes, discussing contracts and publicity opportunities. You must be the girl from Wyoming, a voice said behind her. Aaron turned to see Colonel James Hendricks, a distinguished man in his 50s, wearing full military dress uniform. I'm curious about your rifle. May I? Aaron hesitated, then nodded. The colonel examined her father's weapon with expert hands, noting the worn stock and simple scope. This is a classic. I carried something similar in Desert Storm. Your father's? Yes, sir. He taught me everything I know. Colonel Hendricks handed the rifle back with newfound respect. Sometimes the best tools are the ones that have been tested in real conditions. Good luck tomorrow, Ms. Walker. As Aaron returned to her room, she passed a group of sponsored shooters discussing tomorrow's training schedule. The Wyoming girl won't last 2 days, Marcus Thompson said loudly, adjusting his designer shooting jacket. This isn't a county fair competition. She's about to learn what real precision shooting looks like. His teammate, Kevin Richards, laughed. $20 says she's gone by Wednesday. Some people think watching YouTube videos makes them competitive. Aaron kept walking, her father's words echoing in her mind. Let them underestimate you. Confidence is quiet. Insecurity is loud. The next morning, Aaron arrived at the range 30 minutes early, as was her habit. The facility was impressive electronic. Scoring systems, climate-controlled firing positions, and targets that could be adjusted remotely at distances up to 1,200 yards. She claimed a position at the far end of the line, away from the clusters of sponsored shooters. When training officially began, Aaron's methodical approach immediately drew attention. While other competitors took rapid-fire practice shots, she fired slowly, deliberately, making each bullet count. Her technique was flawless, but unspectacular solid hits without the dramatic flair that impressed spectators. Shooting like that, she'll run out of daylight before she's done, Rebecca Phillips commented to her coach. What they didn't notice was that Aaron's hits were consistently centered, her groups tighter than most, and her shot-to-shot consistency nearly perfect. She wasn't trying to impress anyone during training. She was mapping the range, understanding the conditions, and preparing for when precision mattered most. During the lunch break, Aaron sat alone, studying her father's journal and making notes about wind patterns and target characteristics. She was so focused that she didn't notice Diana Foster approaching with a man in an expensive suit. Aaron, I'd like you to meet Robert Martinez from Precision Arms Corporation. He's interested in discussing a potential sponsorship. Martinez extended his hand with a practiced smile. Ms. Walker, we've been watching your training. While your equipment is vintage, Your technique shows promise. We'd be interested in providing you with modern equipment in exchange for some promotional consideration. Aaron looked up from her journal, then back at her father's rifle. Thank you, but I'm not interested in changing equipment. Martinez's smile faltered. Ms. Walker, you understand you're competing against the best shooters in the country with equipment that's literally decades old. We're offering you a chance to level the playing field. The playing field isn't about equipment, Aaron replied quietly. It's about making the shot when it matters. As Martinez walked away, shaking his head, Aaron returned to her preparations. She had 3 more days of training before the real competition began, and she intended to use every minute wisely. That evening, she called her mentor back in Wyoming, Tom Bradley, her father's old army buddy who'd been watching over her since she was 16. How's it going out there, kiddo? They think I don't belong here, Tom. Maybe they're right. Your daddy would box my ears if he heard you talking like that. You remember what he used to say about doubt? Aaron smiled for the first time since arriving. Doubt is just fear wearing a disguise. That's my girl. Now show them what Wyoming teaches. As Aaron hung up the phone, she felt something shift inside her. Not confidence exactly, but a quiet certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. Tomorrow's training would be different. Tomorrow, she would start letting her shooting speak for itself. The 3rd day of training brought a brutal reality check. Aaron arrived at the range to find her usual firing position occupied by Marcus Thompson's equipment spread. When she politely asked if she could have the spot back, Marcus barely looked up from his custom rifle. First come, first served, sweetheart. Maybe try the beginner section. Aaron quietly moved to an available position, but the message was clear. She wasn't welcome in their exclusive circle. Throughout the morning, small incidents accumulated. Her target results were accidentally mixed up with another shooter's scores. Her reserved equipment locker was somehow double booked. When she approached the rangemaster about the discrepancies, he barely glanced at her paperwork. Probably just confusion with all the new systems, Rangemaster Peterson said dismissively. These things work themselves out, but Aaron knew better. She'd seen this pattern before at smaller competitions, the subtle sabotage, the casual dismissal, the assumption that she didn't belong. Usually, she could ignore it and let her shooting speak for itself. Here, surrounded by million-dollar equipment and professional attitudes, the pressure felt different. During the afternoon precision session, Aaron settled into her rhythm methodically, placing shots at 800 yards. Her groups were tight, her consistency remarkable. But as she prepared for her final series, Marcus Thompson approached her position. "Hey, museum piece," he called out, loud enough for nearby competitors to hear. "Mind if I see that antique you're shooting?" Before Aaron could respond, Marcus reached for her father's rifle. "Careful," she said sharply, but he'd already lifted it, examining the one stock and simple scope with exaggerated curiosity. "This thing's older than my grandfather. No wonder you're shooting like it's 1943. He pretended to shoulder the rifle, making theatrical aiming gestures that drew laughter from his teammates. "Please put it down," Aaron said, her voice steady but firm. "Relax, I'm not going to hurt your museum piece." Marcus continued his examination, pointing out every worn component to his audience. "Look at this scope mount held together with tape, and the stock's been repaired with wood glue." Aaron's hands clenched involuntarily. That rifle represented everything her father had taught her, every lesson learned, every memory preserved. Watching Marcus mock, it felt like watching someone desecrate a grave. "I said put it down." Aaron's voice carried a new edge, one that made several nearby shooters look up from their own preparations. Marcus finally handed the rifle back, but not before making one final comment. "Seriously, There are museums that would pay good money for that relic. You could probably afford real equipment. As Erin checked her rifle for damage, she noticed something that made her blood run cold. The scope had been deliberately knocked off zero. The impact wouldn't be visible to casual observation, but she could feel the slight misalignment. Marcus had sabotaged her rifle while pretending to examine. Is there a problem here? Colonel Hendricks appeared beside Erin's position, his military bearing commanding immediate attention. No, sir, Marcus replied quickly. Just admiring some vintage equipment. The colonel's eyes moved between Marcus and Erin, reading the tension. Mr. Thompson, I believe you have your own preparation to focus on. After Marcus left, Colonel Hendricks watched Erin methodically re-zero her scope, making minor adjustments with practiced precision. He did that on purpose, Erin said quietly. I suspected as much. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Erin looked up from her rifle adjustments. I'm going to show him what this museum piece can do. That evening, Erin called Tom Bradley again, but this time she wasn't seeking reassurance. They're trying to get inside my head, Tom. Messing with my equipment, making me doubt myself. Sounds familiar. Your daddy faced the same thing in basic training. You know what he did? What? He let his rifle do the talking. Every insult, every challenge, every attempt to break him down, he turned it into motivation. Said it was like adding weight to his determination. Erin spent the next hour in her room, cleaning and adjusting her rifle with meditative focus. Each component was checked, each setting verified. Her father's journal lay open beside her, filled with wisdom about handling pressure and maintaining focus. One passage caught her attention. When they try to make you small, become smaller. When they try to make you loud, become quieter. When they try to break your focus, become more focused. The enemy of precision isn't pressure. It's the distraction from pressure. As Erin prepared for sleep, she made a decision. Tomorrow was the final day of training before the competition began. She would stop trying to avoid conflict and start preparing for war. Not the kind fought with words or politics, but the kind fought with perfect shots placed exactly where they needed to be. She had spent her entire life preparing for this moment, and she wouldn't let anyone take it away from her. The next morning, Erin arrived at the range early, as always. But instead of claiming a position at the end of the line, she walked directly to the center firing point, the one traditionally reserved for the most elite competitors. She set up her equipment with quiet confidence, ignoring the stares and whispered comments from other shooters. When Marcus Thompson arrived with his team, he found Erin occupying the prime position. Excuse me, this spot is reserved for serious competitors. Erin looked up from her preparations. Then I'm in the right place. For the first time since arriving at the competition, Erin smiled. But it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the quiet confidence of someone who had finally decided to stop hiding their capabilities. The real competition would begin tomorrow, and Erin Walker was ready to show everyone exactly what a museum piece could do in the right hands. Erin's declaration of war was subtle but unmistakable. Instead of her usual isolated practice routine, she began studying the competition with the same methodical precision she applied to shooting. During breaks, she observed the other competitors' techniques, noted their equipment preferences, and listened to their conversations about strategy and weak points. What she discovered was revealing. Despite their expensive equipment and professional backing, most of the elite shooters had developed predictable patterns. They relied heavily on technology to compensate for fundamental technique flaws. Marcus Thompson, for all his bluster, consistently pulled his shots left under pressure. Rebecca Phillips struggled with wind calculations beyond 600 yards. Even the decorated military snipers showed subtle tells when fatigue set in. But Aaron's most important discovery came from an unexpected source. During a break between training sessions, she overheard Diana Foster, the competition coordinator, discussing the final day's challenge with Range Master Peterson. "The double target configuration is set up perfectly," Foster said. 800 yards, steel plates arranged vertically with a 12-inch gap. Most shooters will play it safe and aim for the front plate. "What about the bonus scoring?" Peterson asked. "If anyone manages to hit both targets with a single shot, it's worth double points. But the physics are nearly impossible. The bullet would have to pass through the first target dead center and maintain enough velocity and trajectory to hit the second." Aaron's pulse quickened. She'd seen similar setups in her father's journal training exercises used by military snipers to test maximum precision. Her father had written extensively about the physics involved, the exact calculations needed, and the mental focus required to attempt such a shot. That evening, Aaron spread her father's journal across her small desk, studying every page related to through and through targeting. The mathematics were complex, but the principle was simple. Perfect shot placement through the center of the first target would allow the bullet to continue with minimal deflection to the second. "Precision is physics waiting for courage," her father had written. "The impossible shot is just the possible shot that no one else is willing to attempt." Aaron began preparing for a strategy that would either make her legendary or eliminate her from competition entirely. She couldn't match the other shooters' equipment advantages, but she could attempt something none of them would risk: a shot that would require perfect execution with no margin for error. The next morning brought the official start of competition. The atmosphere was electric with tension as media crews set up cameras and spectators filled the viewing areas. Aaron watched the opening ceremonies from the back of the group, noting how the other competitors preened for cameras and granted interviews. When her name was announced, the applause was polite but brief. The announcer's introduction was telling: Aaron Walker, civilian shooter from Wyoming, competing with family equipment. No mention of sponsors, achievements, or credentials. Just the basic facts that marked her as an outsider. The first day's challenge was precision shooting at 600 yards, a warm-up designed to establish baseline capabilities. Aaron approached her firing position with quiet confidence, her father's rifle familiar and comfortable in her hands. She had no intention of winning this preliminary round, but she needed to establish credibility for what was coming. Her first shot was perfect center, so was her second, and her third. By the time she'd completed her series, Aaron had posted a score that placed her firmly in the top 10, not spectacular enough to draw unwanted attention, but solid enough to prove she belonged. Marcus Thompson's reaction was predictable. Lucky day. Let's see if beginner's luck holds up when the pressure increases. But Colonel Hendricks, watching from the viewing area, recognized something the other competitors missed. Aaron's shots weren't just accurate, they were identically placed. Her group was smaller than most, and her consistency was remarkable. She wasn't getting lucky, she was demonstrating mastery. After the first day's results were posted, Aaron found herself approached by several journalists looking for human interest angles. "Ms. Walker, you're the only unsponsored shooter in the competition. How does it feel to compete against professional athletes?" Aaron's answer was characteristic. "I'm not here to compete against anyone else. I'm here to shoot my best. Your equipment is noticeably different from other competitors. Do you feel disadvantaged? My father taught me that the shooter makes the shot, not the equipment. I trust his lessons." That night, Aaron called Tom Bradley to discuss her strategy for the final day. The double target setup, it's exactly like the one Dad wrote about in his journal. Chapter 7, page 43. Tom was quiet for a moment. "That's a hell of a shot, kiddo. Your father attempted it once during training. Took him 7 tries to make it work. How many tries do I get? In competition, 1. Aaron understood the implications. The double target shot would either catapult her to victory or end her. Competition entirely. There was no middle ground, no safe option. Tom, I need to know, do you think I can make it? I think you're your father's daughter. And I think he didn't spend 9 years teaching you to play it safe. As Aaron prepared for sleep, she opened her father's journal to the page describing the double target technique. His handwriting was careful, methodical, filled with calculations and observations. But at the bottom of the page, he'd written something that wasn't technical. It was personal. Some shots are about hitting the target. Some shots are about hitting what matters. The difference is in knowing which is which. Aaron closed the journal and made her decision. Tomorrow, she would attempt a shot that would either make her a legend or send her home in defeat. But she would attempt it with perfect preparation, complete focus, and the quiet confidence her father had spent years building into her bones. The competition was about to discover what happened when precision met courage, when preparation met opportunity, and when the quiet girl with the old rifle decided to stop hiding her true capabilities. The second day of competition brought the long-range challenge 1,000-yard precision, shooting that would separate the truly elite from the merely competent. Aaron arrived at the range to find the atmosphere noticeably different. Yesterday's polite dismissal had shifted to wary attention as competitors and coaches recognized that her first-day performance hadn't been a fluke. Marcus Thompson was no longer making jokes about museum pieces. Instead, he huddled with his coach, studying Aaron's previous day's target through binoculars and discussing her technique in hushed tones. The transformation was subtle but significant. She was no longer being dismissed. The 1,000-yard range was intimidating even to experienced shooters. Desert heat created mirage effects that could throw off calculations, and the wind patterns were complex and unpredictable. Aaron studied the conditions carefully, referencing her father's journal notes about extreme distance shooting in variable conditions. She's actually reading environmental conditions manually, observed Linda Chang, a physics professor who served as a technical advisor to several sponsored shooters. No electronic wind meters, no ballistic computers. She's calculating everything in her head. As Aaron settled into her firing position, she felt something she hadn't experienced since arriving. At the competition complete calm, the familiar weight of her father's rifle, the ritual of preparation, the moment of perfect stillness before the shot, all of it felt like coming home. Her first shot at 1,000 yards was a perfect 10-ring hit. Her second was even better dead center. By the time she'd completed her series, Aaron had posted a score that placed her third overall, ahead of several Olympic medalists and decorated military snipers. The reaction was immediate and telling. Media cameras suddenly focused on her position. Sponsors began approaching with offers and questions. Fellow competitors stopped treating her as an amusing curiosity and started watching her with professional interest. But the attention also brought scrutiny. That afternoon, Aaron discovered that someone had been through her equipment bag while she was shooting. Nothing was stolen, but items had been moved, examined, photographed. Someone was trying to understand how she achieved such precision with basic equipment. "They're studying you now," Colonel Hendricks warned during a quiet moment between sessions. Success has a way of making people paranoid. That evening brought the competitors' briefing for the final day, the day that would determine the championship. Diana Foster outlined the challenge with obvious excitement. Tomorrow's final round will test the absolute limits of precision marksmanship. You'll face a double target configuration at 800 yards, 2 steel plates arranged vertically with a precise gap between them. Standard scoring awards points for hitting either target. However, any shooter who successfully hits both targets with A single shot will receive double points and automatic victory. The room buzzed with discussion. Several competitors immediately dismissed the double target shot as impossible publicity stunt. Others began calculating the physics involved, trying to determine if the shot was even theoretically achievable. Erin said nothing, but her mind was racing. This was exactly the scenario her father had prepared for, the shot she'd been studying for weeks. While other competitors debated whether to attempt the impossible, she was calculating wind drift, bullet drop, and the exact aim point needed for success. After the briefing, Marcus Thompson cornered Erin in the hallway. "Listen, Wyoming, tomorrow's a different game. This isn't about lucky shots or beginner's luck. This is about real precision under maximum pressure. You sure you don't want to reconsider that equipment upgrade?" Erin looked at him steadily. "I'm comfortable with my choices. Your funeral. But don't say I didn't warn you when you're packing up your museum piece tomorrow night." What Marcus didn't realize was that his warning had the opposite effect. Instead of intimidating Erin, it confirmed that she'd already gotten inside his head. The confident, dismissive bully had become worried enough to offer last-minute advice. He was scared. That night, Erin spread her father's journal across her desk and studied every detail of the double target technique. The calculations were complex, requiring perfect accuracy and complete understanding of ballistics. But more importantly, the shot required absolute confidence. Any hesitation or doubt would translate into a miss. She practiced the mental routine her father had taught her. Visualize the shot. Calculate the variables. Commit completely to the execution. No second-guessing, no backup plans, no safe alternatives. The shot demanded total commitment. At midnight, Erin called Tom Bradley one final time. "I made my decision, Tom. Tomorrow, I'm attempting the double target shot." Tom was quiet for a long moment. "That's a hell of a thing to stake your reputation on, kiddo." Dad always said that precision is courage made visible. "Tomorrow, I'm going to show them what he meant. Your father would be proud. Win or lose, he'd be proud that you had the guts to try." As Erin prepared for sleep, she opened her father's journal to a page she'd never shown anyone else, his final entry, written just days before his death. Erin has the gift, not just the physical ability to shoot, but the mental strength to attempt shots that others won't even consider. Someday, she'll face a moment that defines her as a marksman. When that moment comes, I hope she remembers that the only failure is the shot not taken. Erin closed the journal and made her final decision. Tomorrow, she would either make history or go home defeated. But she would do it attempting something that no one else in the competition would risk. A shot that would prove once and for all that precision came from the shooter, not the equipment. The championship would be decided by courage, and Erin Walker had been preparing for this moment her entire life. Championship morning dawned clear and still, with perfect visibility and minimal wind conditions that would test pure shooting skill without environmental interference. Erin arrived at the range 2 hours early, as had become her custom, but today she wasn't alone. Word had spread about the unsponsored shooter from Wyoming who'd climbed to third place with vintage equipment, and spectators were arriving in unprecedented numbers. Media crews positioned cameras around the firing line, their attention focused primarily on the established champions Marcus Thompson, Rebecca Phillips, and Colonel James Martinez, a decorated military sniper who'd emerged as the tournament favorite. Erin's position at firing point 7 drew some attention, but most commentators treated her as an inspiring underdog story rather than a serious threat. Erin Walker has captured hearts with her remarkable precision using her father's rifle, announced lead commentator Patricia Wells. But today's double target challenge will separate sentimental favorites from true champions. As Erin methodically prepared her equipment, she noticed the subtle changes in atmosphere around her. Other competitors glanced at her position more frequently, Coaches whispered among themselves while studying her technique. The casual dismissal had evolved into wary respect. They still didn't expect her to win, but they no longer expected her to embarrass herself. Diana Foster approached Aaron's position, carrying official documents and a small film crew. "Ms. Walker, we're documenting each competitor's strategy for today's challenge. Can you tell us your approach to the double target configuration?" Aaron looked up from her rifle preparation, her expression calm and focused. "I'm going to aim for both targets." "Both targets? That's ambitious. Most experts consider the through shot impossible under competition conditions. My father taught me that impossible is just another word for untested." The exchange was captured on camera and would later become one of the most replayed moments in competitive shooting history. Not because of what Aaron said, but because of how she said it with quiet confidence that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than bravado. As the final round began, competitors were called to the line in reverse order of their current standings. Aaron, sitting in third place, would shoot before only the top two scorers, Marcus Thompson and Carl Martinez. The format was simple. Each shooter would have one attempt at the double target configuration, with scoring based on accuracy and the unprecedented bonus for hitting both targets. Aaron watched the early competitors with professional interest. Most aimed for the front target, the safe play that guaranteed points. A few attempted the rear target, hoping to impress judges with their boldness. None attempted the through shot. When Marcus Thompson approached the firing line, the crowd's energy intensified. His custom rifle gleamed under the desert sun, equipped with the latest electronic aids and precision optics. Marcus had been vocal about his strategy, multiple variables calculated, safe shot selected, championship secured through superior equipment and professional technique. His shot was technically perfect. The bullet struck the front target dead center, earning maximum points and a round of applause from spectators. Marcus stood and waved confidently, clearly believing he'd just secured the championship. Colonel Martinez followed with equal precision, placing his shot slightly off-center, but still within the scoring ring. With two solid scores posted, the championship seemed decided until Diana Foster announced the final shooter, Aaron Walker, shooting for Team Wyoming. The crowd quieted as Aaron approached the firing line. Her father's rifle looked ancient compared to the high-tech equipment used by previous shooters, but her movements were smooth and confident. She settled into position with the same methodical precision she'd displayed throughout the competition. At 800 yards, the double target configuration was clearly visible through her scope. Two steel plates arranged vertically, separated by a gap of exactly 12 inches. The front target showed impact marks from previous competitors. The rear target remained untouched, a pristine steel surface waiting for someone brave enough to attempt the impossible. Aaron controlled her breathing and began her shot preparation routine. Wind flags hung limp in the still air. Temperature was stable. Conditions were as perfect as she could hope for. Her father's calculations ran through her mind. Bullet drop, trajectory, impact point, follow through. Everything had to be perfect. She found her natural respiratory pause and settled the crosshairs on the exact center of the front target. Through the scope, she could see the rear target aligned perfectly behind it. One shot, two targets, maximum precision required. The trigger broke cleanly. The rifle fired. 800 yards away, steel rang like a bell. For a moment, silence dominated the range as spotters confirmed what they'd witnessed. Then the announcement came through the speakers, delivered in Foster's professional voice that couldn't quite hide her amazement. Clean hit, front target, dead center. Bullet continued through. Confirmed hit, rear target, center mass. Double target achieved with single shot. The crowd erupted. Competitors stood in stunned silence. Cameras captured every moment as Aaron calmly engaged her rifle safety and stood, her expression unchanged except for the slight smile that suggested she'd done exactly what she'd intended. Marcus Thompson stared at the distant targets through binoculars, his face showing disbelief mixed with something approaching respect. Colonel Martinez approached Aaron's position and rendered a slow, deliberate salute, one professional to another. But the most meaningful reaction came from an unexpected source. Colonel Hendricks, the distinguished military observer who'd shown interest in Aaron's rifle, stepped forward and addressed the crowd through the public address system. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you've just witnessed is more than exceptional. Marksmanship. It's a demonstration of what's possible when perfect preparation meets unwavering courage. That shot will be studied, discussed, and remembered long after today's scores are forgotten." As officials verified the unprecedented achievement and calculated final scores, Aaron stood quietly beside her father's rifle, remembering his words about precision being courage made visible. She'd just proven that lesson in the most public way possible. The championship belonged to the quiet girl from Wyoming who'd never needed to shout. The victory ceremony was unlike anything Aaron had experienced in her 6 years of competitive shooting. As she stood on the platform holding her father's rifle, facing a crowd of spectators and media representatives, she felt his presence more strongly than at any time since his death 9 years earlier. Diana Foster presented the championship trophy, a crystal representation of a rifleman in perfect shooting position, engraved with the names of previous winners. As Aaron accepted the award, Foster leaned close and whispered, "That shot will be talked about for decades. You've just redefined what's possible in precision shooting." The prize money was substantial, $200,000 for first place, plus performance bonuses that would secure Aaron's financial future. But more importantly, the victory had transformed her from an unknown competitor into a shooting sports legend. Offers flooded in immediately. Sponsorship deals worth millions, equipment contracts, media appearances, and coaching opportunities. Marcus Thompson approached Aaron during the post-competition reception, his earlier arrogance replaced by genuine respect. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. "I underestimated you completely. That shot, I've never seen anything like it." Aaron accepted his handshake graciously. No apology needed. Competition brings out different sides of people. "Would you mind if I asked, how did you know it was possible? That double target shot?" Aaron glanced at her father's rifle, now drawing admiring looks from competitors who dismissed it days earlier. "My father used to say that every shot is a conversation with physics. Today, I just had the right conversation." Rebecca Phillips, the sponsored shooter who'd questioned Aaron's methods, joined the conversation with obvious curiosity. "Your preparation was completely different from everyone else's. No electronic aids, no computer calculations. How do you achieve that level of precision?" "Practice," Aaron replied simply. "The same shot, every morning, for 9 years. My father taught me that consistency comes from repetition, not technology." But the most meaningful moment came when Colonel Hendricks approached with a small group of military personnel. "Ms. Walker, I'd like you to meet some colleagues who are very interested in your performance today." The introduction was formal, but carried undertones of significant opportunity. "Your shooting skills have applications beyond civilian competition." Aaron listened politely to their offers: military training positions, specialized instruction roles, government contracts. The opportunities were impressive and financially lucrative. But as she considered their proposals, she found herself thinking about the small range back in Wyoming where her journey had begun. That evening, Aaron called Tom Bradley to share her victory and discuss her future. "I'm proud of you, kiddo. Your father would be over the moon." "Tom, they're offering me everything money, sponsorships, military contracts. I could make a career out of this. But Erin looked out her hotel window at the competition facility where she just made history. But I keep thinking about Dad's journal. The last entry he wrote about precision being courage made visible. He didn't teach me to shoot for fame or money. He taught me to shoot because it mattered. So what are you thinking? I'm thinking about going home. Back to Wyoming. Back to the range where this all started. Tom was quiet for a moment. And then what? Then I teach. The way Dad taught me. Show other young women that they don't need expensive equipment or sponsors to achieve something extraordinary. They just need patience, practice, and the courage to attempt what others won't. 3 weeks later, Erin stood in the Wyoming wind at the Blackwood shooting range, but everything had changed. Media crews had visited twice, documenting her story for national broadcasts. The range owner, impressed by the sudden attention, had offered her a permanent position as head instructor. More importantly, inquiries had begun arriving from young women across the country asking about training opportunities. Erin's decision to decline the major sponsorship offers had surprised many in the shooting community, but it felt right. She kept only one endorsement deal, a modest arrangement with a small ammunition manufacturer that would fund her new teaching program without compromising her independence. The Erin Walker Marksmanship Academy opened 6 months after her championship victory. The facility was simple basic equipment, fundamental techniques, and her father's philosophy that precision came from the shooter, not the gear. Her first class consisted of 12 young women, ages 16 to 25, each carrying their own story of being underestimated or overlooked. Shooting isn't about proving you're better than someone else, Erin told her first students. It's about proving to yourself that you can achieve something that seemed impossible. Every shot is a conversation with your own limitations. Among her students was Jessica Martinez, a 17-year-old from Colorado whose father had died in military service, leaving behind only his service rifle and a determination to honor his memory. There was also Rachel Thompson, no relation to Marcus, a college student who'd been told she was too small for competitive shooting. Each student brought their own challenges, their own dreams, their own reasons for wanting to learn precision marksmanship. Erin's teaching methods mirrored her competition approach: methodical, patient, focused on fundamentals rather than shortcuts. She emphasized mental preparation as much as physical technique, teaching her students to find stillness in chaos and confidence in uncertainty. Your equipment doesn't define your capability, she would tell them during training sessions. Your preparation does. Your focus does. Your willingness to attempt the shot that others won't does. The Academy's reputation grew organically, built on results rather than marketing. Erin's students began placing highly in regional competitions, earning college scholarships and gaining opportunities they'd never imagined possible. More importantly, they were learning lessons that extended far beyond shooting sports. 2 years after her championship victory, Erin received a letter that made her pause in her morning routine. The return address showed the Riverside Military Training Facility, the site of her historic achievement. The letter was from Diana Foster, now promoted to Director of Competitive Programs. She was requesting Erin's participation in a new initiative, an annual exhibition match featuring the double target configuration that had made Erin famous. The event would showcase precision shooting and inspire the next generation of marksmen. Erin's response was characteristic: brief, direct, and decisive. Thank you for the invitation, but I already made my point. My students will make theirs. That afternoon, Erin stood on the familiar firing line at Blackwood Range, watching Jessica Martinez prepare for her first major competition. The young woman's technique was flawless, her focus absolute, her confidence quiet but unshakable. Everything Erin had hoped to teach. Remember, Aaron said as Jessica settled into position. "This isn't about them. This isn't about their expectations, or their equipment, or their assumptions. This is about the shot. Make it count." Jessica nodded, found her natural respiratory pause, and squeezed the trigger. 600 yards away, steel rang with perfect precision. Aaron smiled, hearing her father's voice in the Wyoming wind. Some shots are about hitting the target. Some shots are about hitting what matters. The difference is in knowing which is which. 5 years had passed since Aaron Walker's legendary shot at the National Precision Trials, and the shooting world had not forgotten. Her name was mentioned in training manuals, her technique studied in military academies, and her story told to inspire shooters who faced overwhelming odds. But Aaron herself had deliberately stepped back from the spotlight, focusing entirely on her academy and the young women she was training. The Aaron Walker Marksmanship Academy had evolved into something more significant than anyone had imagined. What started as a small teaching program had become a nationally recognized institution. Young women traveled from across the country to train under Aaron's guidance, and her graduates were making their mark in competitions from local matches to international events. The Academy's success wasn't measured only in trophies and accolades, though those had accumulated impressively. More importantly, Aaron's students were proving that precision, patience, and proper preparation could overcome any disadvantage. They were changing perceptions about what was possible for young women in shooting sports. Jessica Martinez had become Aaron's first major success story. Now 22 and a senior at Colorado State University, she held 3 national junior records and had been selected for the Olympic development team. But more than her achievements, Jessica embodied the philosophy Aaron had taught her: quiet confidence, methodical preparation, and the courage to attempt difficult shots. "Aaron taught me that shooting isn't about proving you belong," Jessica told a reporter during a recent interview. "It's about proving that belonging is something you create for yourself, one perfect shot at a time." Rachel Thompson had taken a different path, using her marksmanship skills to earn a full scholarship to engineering school. She credited Aaron with teaching her that precision in shooting translated to precision in thinking, a lesson that served her well in mathematics and design courses. "The principles are the same," Rachel explained to prospective students during Academy open houses. "Whether you're calculating bullet trajectory or designing bridge supports, it's about attention to detail, careful preparation, and having the confidence to trust your work." Aaron's influence extended beyond her direct students. Shooting ranges across the country had reported increased participation from young women, many citing Aaron's example as inspiration. Equipment manufacturers began developing entry-level products specifically designed for new female shooters. Most significantly, the culture of competitive shooting was slowly changing, becoming more welcoming and less dependent on expensive equipment. The transformation wasn't without resistance. Some traditionalists complained that Aaron's philosophy undermined the importance of proper equipment. Others argued that her emphasis on fundamental techniques was outdated in an era of technological advancement. But the results spoke louder than the criticism. Aaron's students were consistently outperforming shooters with superior equipment. Marcus Thompson, the competitor who had once mocked Aaron's museum piece, had become an unexpected ally. His own shooting had improved dramatically after adopting some of Aaron's training methods, focusing more on mental preparation and consistent technique rather than equipment modifications. "I learned the hard way that the best equipment in the world can't compensate for poor fundamentals," Marcus admitted during a recent conversation with Aaron. "You taught all of us something important that day, whether we wanted to learn it or not." The 10-year anniversary of Aaron's championship shot brought renewed media attention and requests for interviews, exhibitions, and endorsement opportunities. Network television wanted to document her story. Major manufacturers offered lucrative contracts, and military organizations requested her consultation on training programs. Erin declined them all with the same polite but firm response she'd given for years. "I've already made my point. My students will make theirs." Instead of celebrating the anniversary with publicity events, Erin marked the occasion quietly. She spent the morning at her father's grave, a small cemetery outside of town where Wyoming winds still carried the familiar sounds of her childhood. She brought his journal, now worn from years of study and teaching, and read aloud the passages that had guided her through the most challenging moments of her life. "I kept my promise, Dad," she whispered to the headstone that bore his name and military insignia. "I showed them what you taught me, and now I'm teaching others." That afternoon, Erin gathered her current class of students for a special lesson, not about shooting technique or equipment maintenance, but about purpose and legacy. "You're here because you want to learn precision shooting," she began, addressing the group of young women who range from high school students to college graduates. "But what you're really learning is that you can achieve things that others believe are impossible. The shooting is just the method. The lesson is much bigger." She gestured toward the targets set up at various distances across the range. "Every shot you take here is practice for something more important. The moment in your life when everyone expects you to fail, when you have one chance to prove what you're capable of, when the only thing standing between you and success is your willingness to attempt what others won't." Among the students listening was Emma Rodriguez, a 16-year-old whose single mother had saved for months to afford the academy fees. Emma reminded Erin of herself at that age, quiet, determined, and carrying more responsibility than most adults would handle. "Will you show us the shot?" Emma asked suddenly. "The one from the championship?" Erin had been asked this question countless times over the years by students, visitors, and media representatives. Her answer was always the same: "I don't perform tricks. I teach principles." But today, looking at Emma's earnest expression and remembering her own journey from underestimated outsider to unlikely champion, Erin felt something shift. "Set up the double targets," she said quietly. The students worked quickly, arranging 2 steel plates at 800 yards with the same configuration Erin had faced at the National Precision Trials. Word spread quickly through the range, and within minutes, a small crowd had gathered. Other instructors, visiting shooters, and local supporters who had followed Erin's career. Erin approached the firing line carrying her father's rifle, the same weapon that had made history 10 years earlier. The stock showed additional wear from years of teaching, but the action remained smooth and the optics clear. She settled into position with the same methodical precision her students had observed thousands of times. "This isn't about the shot," she announced to the assembled group. "This is about what the shot represents. Sometimes in life, you get one chance to prove what you're capable of. When that moment comes, you don't get to practice first. You don't get a second attempt. You either make it or you don't." Erin found her natural respiratory pause and settled the crosshairs on the front target. Through the scope, she could see both plates aligned perfectly, just as they had been a decade earlier. The calculations were automatic now: wind, drift, bullet, drop, impact point. Everything had to be perfect. The trigger broke cleanly. Steel rang twice in rapid succession. Perfect execution. Both targets hit. The impossible shot made routine through years of practice and unwavering focus. But Erin's attention wasn't on the distant targets or the amazed reactions from spectators. Instead, she watched her students' faces, seeing in their expressions the same quiet confidence she'd felt at 25 when the shooting world had expected her to fail. "Now you know it's possible," she told them. "The question is, what impossible thing will you make possible?" As the crowd dispersed and equipment was cleaned and stored, Aaron walked to the small memorial she'd established at the range, a simple plaque dedicated to her father's memory and the principles he'd taught her. The inscription was brief but meaningful. Precision is courage made visible. Legacy is teaching others to be courageous. Emma Rodriguez approached as Aaron stood quietly before the memorial. "What's next for you, Ms. Walker? After everything you've accomplished?" Aaron looked out across the range where his students were practicing, each one working methodically toward their own moment of truth, their own chance to prove what dedication and proper preparation could achieve. "What's next is watching you and the others show the world what you're capable of," Aaron replied. "My shot was just the beginning. Yours will be the continuation." As the Wyoming sun set behind the mountains, Aaron Walker stood where her journey had begun. Surrounded by the next generation of precision shooters, she was preparing to change the world. Her father's lessons lived on, not in trophies or records, but in the quiet confidence of young women who had learned that impossible was just another word for untested. The legend wasn't the shot itself, it was what the shot had started. And that story was still being written, one perfect bullet at a time. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and become a part of our Everyday Life Stories community. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below. We love hearing from our amazing viewers around the world.